Yeah. So hello everyone. My name is Gus. This is Dive Talk Plus. We have Steve. Go ahead and introduce
Hey,
yourself.
nice to meet you all.
Absolutely. And we also have.
Nick Hogel, very, very nice to be here, and it's very nice to meet you two officially.
I thank you. Thank you for being here. I know that we were going to be talking about a different topic today, but I figure that I've always had this idea of having like a round table, right, where we can talk about different things. And in
Mhm.
previous years, when I've attended DEMA, I always bring up a topic and just ask experts around the floor what they think, and we post it out there in Dive Talk Plus because the idea is that people hear from other experts and what they feel. So just to give you an example, 2 years ago we talked about the use of transmitters and who feels comfortable using transmitters for
Mhm.
tech diving, etc., and who, if you're using a transmitter, uses an SPG as a backup, or who just uses SPG. So we talked about this, and we had obviously all over the place.
Mhm.
Some people use SPGs only, some people use both, some people use just transmitters, no SPGs whatsoever. Then last year we talked about helmets for cave diving. I didn't know there was like this controversy about using helmets
100%. Yeah.
for cave diving, and again, we had all these different opinions from people out there as to whether they use it or not, they see value, etc. So I have other topics that I want to talk to you guys about to get your thoughts on it. This one is a big one.
Okay. All right.
Dry suits. Do you use your dry suit for buoyancy, or do you use it, or do you use your wing? Like, how do you deal with buoyancy with a dry suit? Let's talk about
Yeah,
that.
this is huge. This is huge. Do you want
Um,
me to start?
Go for it.
Yeah, so it is a controversial subject, and especially I think when you start rebreather diving as well, where you've got not one, not two, but three air spaces that you have to manage.
Yeah.
And Gus, you know for sure that as you change depth in particular, or if you change loop volume for whatever reason on a rebreather, now it's like, holy crap, now I've got to deal with all of these spaces either
Everything.
contracting or expanding as things change on you. I think as a general rule for me, let's start as an open circuit diver. As an open circuit diver, and bear in mind I'm a side mount diver, so always in all of my technical career has been in side mount. So that's a little unusual, but that's just me. And I have always used my dry suit as primarily as my exposure protection and as my backup for buoyancy control. So the bottom line there is what I'm doing is I'm having enough gas in my dry suit so that I am not squeezed, and also
Yes.
enough gas in my dry suit so that I'm warm and comfortable.
Yes.
And I'm managing that volume as I'm going deeper or ascending, descending or ascending. So I'm
Now, Steve,
managing
are you
what's in there.
are
Go ahead.
you are you the kind of diver that relies on your dry suit for buoyancy? And I ask because sometimes, especially in like caves in Florida and in Mexico as well, the
Mm-hmm.
water is not super cold that you absolutely need a dry suit, but it's also not
Yes.
super warm that a dry suit would like kill you, right? It's like it's
Mm-hmm.
right in between. And there are people
Yep.
that will dive the dry suit because it helps them with trim. It's not so much the protection for the
Yep.
temperature, but it's trim.
Yep.
Where do you
Yep.
fit?
And 100% on that. And so it
Oh,
is such, once you know how to dive your dry suit properly, it
yeah.
is such a tool. It's even a weapon in terms of being able to manage trim. And wetsuit drivers don't know this. This is kind of a secret for them, right? And at first they think dry suits are going to be really difficult, but they're actually easier because they support trim. You can lift your shoulders and move some gas up. You can drop your legs down and move some gas. Lift your legs up and move some gas in that direction. So moving that bubble around is a huge help. And I just where I was heading before is at the last part of my ascent, I've used my BCD for buoyancy through my dive. It's a BCD, right? That's what it's for. But as I
Right.
come up to the last stops, and my BCD should be empty now if I'm weighted correctly. Now for those last little bits, I'm using my dry suit, and the reason for that is that the adjustments, I'm lifting my arm up and down, but the adjustments are so fine that I just need to like lift my arm a little bit to dump some gas, put a little bit in, put a little bit in, and then I can get myself absolutely perfect. So it's a very
Nice.
fine adjustment. Your BCD tends to be, especially on the stealth where you're reaching behind you, tends to be a little bit more of a, oh my, you'll have a pull and maybe you dump too much, you got to put some back. So I find the dry suit much easier to handle for that last little fine adjustment.
Nice, nice. So I'm more in the camp of, if I'm in between, like in that temperature that I like, wet suit is enough to be warm, I will go wet, just because I don't want the complexity of the dry suit personally. Like, that's how I deal with
Hmm.
that. I don't need it for trim. Like, I feel my trim is not perfect. I'm not, Ed Sorensen level, but it's good enough for what I do for the
But he
cave
is.
diving.
Very
Right.
few people are,
Right.
Gus.
Exactly. However, I've talked to other like world-class cave divers that say, like, I could unplug my wing because I rely on the dry suit for buoyancy. I don't use the wing ever. It's only an emergency. And I have
Yeah.
no idea where Nick is, by the way. This, just for everyone watching, I did not tell this guys what we were going to be talking about ahead of time. This is all a surprise. So I want to hear from you, Nick. How do you deal with dry suits?
Well, to be honest, I definitely don't have as much time on or in dry suits as you two.
You're in
So
Mexico,
I
right?
definitely, yes, I am in Mexico, and I am in a dry suit. And generally, in the past and even right now, I don't use it for buoyancy. I think I still
Mm,
need just a little bit more time, because it's I can't really, it's like I haven't perfected the use of it yet, like you were just saying, Steve. So I still need some more time into it, and even during the course of my training, because I mean it's been dry suit every day since I've gotten here. I've been playing around with it, like adding just a little bit of air in the feet to kind of keep it a little bit up, or seeing what I can do with it. Granted, depending on where I am too, because it's like, okay, I know I'm kind of going in a smaller area. Let's just stick to what I know, so that way I'm not practicing in a fragile environment. Um, but I mean, I do know it's an argument out there between people. Not an argument. I hate to say that. But a debate. I'll say a debate between like if to use with buoyancy, and I have met both sides to where they're like, yeah, 100% I use it for buoyancy. Right now, I just haven't had enough time to perfect and try to figure it out. But I definitely see it a little bit more in my future. But it's kind of a toss up, because normally I'm in some pretty tropical environments, and I know there are parties out there who will dive dry suits every day
amazing.
regardless of
I
temperature.
know. Crazy.
And no, I'm much more
Yeah.
of a give me a 3 mil wetsuit and I'm a happy camper. But I
Yeah.
do enjoy, especially out here, because I do like like you were saying, Gus, the waters out here are kind of on that fine line, but at the same time, like I feel like I do get cold easily.
Mm.
So I do like to have the dry suit, just because it's like, okay, I can layer up a little bit more and try to stay a little bit more warm.
But
But
if you were at that temperature where you wouldn't get cold with a wetsuit, would you still pick a dry suit because it helps you with trim, or will you just go wet?
I think I don't know. That's a good question, actually. Because I don't like thick neoprene. I'll be honest. So I said the 3 mil. Like anything above a 5 mil kind of gets,
Dry.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
but no, I think I would. It's something I'm gonna have to practice, and that's actually great that we're having this conversation, because it's something that I'm like, oh, okay, I can apply. In the next couple weeks or something, see, what I can do, play around with it. But yeah, I'm kind of on the fence of I don't know right now.
Well,
Yeah.
when I got certified on a dry suit, it was in 2018, and my instructor said, "Look, you've been diving your whole life, controlling buoyancy with your BCD. Don't change it. Just keep on using your BCD for buoyancy. Add air for comfort, right? Whether that is for squeeze or for temperature. Add air for
Hmm.
comfort, and the rest use your BCD the way you've been diving, like your whole dive life." So
Hmm.
it's interesting that the three of us do the same thing, because now we all get attacked in the comments, which is cool, because that's what YouTube
Yep.
is for. All the experts are going to chime in and call us all three idiots because we're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
the other thing that my instructor taught me back in 2018 was to leave the dump valve open at all times. So this is another controversy, right? Some people
Mm.
close it. Some people, like, you're messing with it. I never close it. Never. I've never been in
Yeah.
a dive and be
Yeah.
like, I should close this thing. Never. Not one time.
Yeah.
How do you guys do it? Steve,
Yeah.
let's start with you.
Man, that one's so interesting. I have two amazing dry suits. So I've got a SF Tech, excuse me, an SF Tech
Yeah.
which I got in, let me think, when did I get that? 2016. It was my second Drysuit. I won't tell you what I had before that. I had a very inexpensive one that I got started in. And then I now have a Seal Drysuit. Both of them are amazing Drysuits, and I've got nothing but great things to say about both of them. With my SF Tech, the position of the dump valve is such that I can leave it open the entire dive. And, I was showing those little adjustments. It's just
Right.
amazing. It's really, really in absolutely the right place anatomically for my body. The Seal is slightly in the wrong place. And so
You
what
dumped
happens is
accidentally.
I
Right?
I'm dumping gas. So I've changed what I do. I dive completely open with the SF Tech, but with the Seal, I tend to turn it in maybe 1 or 2 turns
Oh,
so that it needs a little more pressure. And you can do that. You don't have to close it fully. You can have it partially closed. And then when you lift, it needs a little more gas in that position in order to dump, but it still will dump. So that's what I do with the Seal. And then when I get up to my final stops, I'm just a little bit more careful with my arm position. So it is interesting. I think all things being equal, I would dive as you do with it open the entire time. And in that way, you've got one less thing to manage. And so long as you're not accidentally dumping, I will say when you're completing skills, so let's think of a valve drill, for instance, and you need to lift your arm back to close a
right, right,
left
right.
hand valve, for instance. I've found teaching as well. I've got to be really careful teaching that I don't destroy my, perfect constructed trim by going
Exactly.
backwards and finding that all of a sudden I've dumped gas and I didn't want to. So you do have to think about, am I about to complete a skill or something where I need to move this arm? Then you need to close it if you're diving open.
Yeah. And I just want to preface by saying that just because I dive with it open, that's just the way I was trained. Doesn't mean it's the right way. So, that's just the way I
Well,
do it.
Gus, here's the
It's probably the
thing.
wrong way,
It's
but
it's your way. No, it's your
right.
way, and I think Nick, you hit on it before about practice. Whatever you decide to do, practice it, practice it, practice it, dive it, dive it, dive it, and then if you find that it's causing you an issue, change or
Yeah.
try another way and see if that works. There's no one, or I've learned this with speaking side mount too. There's no one way to dive. There's kind of a right way for you, and there's a right way for other people, and yeah, the DIR concept, I think, has driven us into this whole thing of there's only one
Everybody
way.
has
That's
to
I
do it
don't think
this
that's
way.
true.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I do have a question about side mount in a second, but I do want to hear what Nick has to say about dump valve. Open,
So
close, switch around.
I keep mine open, and I think that was just the way I was taught as well. And actually, just the other day, someone was telling me, I guess, well, let me rephrase. I'll close it on the surface when we're doing some chat. If we're in deeper water, it just kind of helps me float a little bit more. But as
Nice.
I'm diving, I definitely keep it open. It's just I feel like it's just one less thing that I have to deal with. But yeah, that's just my way. I'm not saying it's the right or wrong way or whatnot.
Right.
And but yeah, I definitely keep mine open. I feel like it's just easier.
You know what's
But
funny
on
is
the
that I've had
I was gonna say,
conversations with people where they are like, really depends on the dive. Like if I'm in a DPV,
Mhm.
you change depth so quickly that you don't have time or hands to like start opening stuff. So I leave it open in a DPV. But if
Good
I'm
point.
swimming, I leave it closed. Like I just leave it open regardless. I
Mhm.
just there's at all times. So Nick, you were gonna add something else?
oh well, no, I was just saying. So you have an SF Tech, Steve. I actually have mine on order. So I was
Mm,
hoping to get it before
Nice.
Mexico, but I did not get a chance to get it. So I have it. I think it'll be waiting for me as soon as the trip is done at home in a box. So I'm looking forward.
nice.
Oh, yeah, you're in for a treat. That's
I
nice.
haven't seen those. I haven't seen those. So
Yeah,
yeah.
go
Okay.
ahead.
So here's the side mount question I have. I was thinking about this like a couple of weeks ago. How come no one teaches open water diving on a single side mount tank? Like we're not talking about full side mount switching every 500 psi or whatever it is in bar. 15 bar, is that how you do in
Yeah.
bar? You switch it? Oh no, how many
Yeah,
bars?
yeah, yeah.
Or
10 to
or
20, 10 to 20. So yeah, yeah,
okay,
exactly.
whatever it is. But
Um,
anyway, in PSI we do 500 PSI, to switch. Like, how come no one? And I asked because of this. I did like not a try scuba. The guy was certified, but we were in a it was in a cave. It was basically it was a cenote in Mexico, but he didn't have a cave. It was just a sinkhole. And we were at a sinkhole and we were with someone who was open water certified and he wanted to dive it, but he didn't bring any gear. So all of our gear was side mount. So what we said is,
mhm,
look, we'll put you on a single side mount tank, same thing with an octo and everything. So the configuration was the same, but just side mount. We put more weight on one side. than the other, and then one tank on one side. And he went for a dive and he loved it. He was like, not only my trim was great, but number two, I'm not bashing my head every time I look up to look at something because there's no valve
Yep.
behind my head. I love that I can look up now without destroying my head. So I started thinking about like, why are we not teaching people just open water divers on a single side
Yep.
mount tank? Why? Why is
Let me
nobody
ask you.
doing it?
Let me ask you a couple of questions about that scenario first, so that I can give you some context. What type of cylinder were you diving for that one? Was it steel or aluminum?
Aluminum 80. I don't know what that is in
Aluminum
liters,
80.
but yeah.
Yeah, that's 11.1 liters. Okay,
Okay.
and it was salt water or fresh water?
Fresh water.
Fresh water. Okay, and so like the reason I ask those questions is the buoyancy characteristic of the cylinder is really important
Right.
in side mount. The way you set them up, even using two, is a little bit different, and you need to. Saltwater, freshwater is very different. Aluminum cylinders are very buoyant in freshwater,
When
not
they're empty
sorry,
out.
in saltwater, not so much in fresh. So, and in freshwater, aluminum are a really good tool. The only issue when you decide to put a little bit of weight off center is there's 2 kilos of gas. I don't know what that is in pounds, nearly 4 pounds of gas, I
4.4. Yeah.
guess. And yeah, in that cylinder. And as you consume that gas, you're going to find that you are a little heavy on the side that you put weight on. When you
Right.
start, you might be okay, but at some point in the dive, you're going to be going like this. If you decide not to put any weight on, then at the beginning of the dive, you're going to be the other way. You're going to be a
Then
little
you're
bit
gonna
heavy
be
on that side.
sideways the whole time.
And
Yeah.
then as you consume some gas and it becomes neutral and you're going to be great. And then as it becomes buoyant, you're going to go the other way. And one of the key foundational principles of side mount is balance. So
Right.
you want to be balanced on both sides.
That's true.
And so by consuming gas each side, 10, 15, 20 bar, 500 PSI, you then are able to maintain that balance. So I tend not to favor single side mount for that reason. However, the reasons that you gave in terms of I don't want to bang my head, I've got easy access to valves, feels really good, are a good reason to do it. And I have dived single side mount. I did it in Hawaii in saltwater with an aluminum cylinder. It was okay. I wouldn't say it was great.
Mhm.
But if you want to do it, so long as you set it up properly and you, as you say, you have an octi and you have a method of donating gas and you can balance yourself out. One thing I've learned as I've progressed in my career, training with ProTech especially, is the ability of your body to maintain an imbalanced setup. So, for instance, this is why they do no fins training, is so that you learn to use your core to balance offset weight. And when you add a third cylinder, for instance, in side mount, you're going to have an offset weight, and
For
that's an
sure.
example of when you might do that. So, you can manage it just using body tension without having to put weights on. And then by doing that, you then find that you can always use body tension, and that then allows you to offset the weight at the beginning and the end. So I would say if you want to try it, try it. I wouldn't say it would be a preferred method of side mount diving,
Right.
in my opinion, but if it's a path for you or if it's something that you need to do, I had to do it in Hawaii because I didn't have a choice. I didn't have
Right.
the valves that I needed. So yeah,
I mean,
is
I
that
know that I
is,
know that some people have done it before. I know Cave Adventures has done open water inside mount, like just full on
mm-hmm.
both tanks. But my
Yeah,
question was
yeah,
more about
exactly.
a single and like, could you switch weights, from one side to another? Like if you start with, 8 kilos or something like, or six, could you transfer along the way as you feel yourself?
I th-
It
I
adds
think you could,
complexity,
but
but
yeah, that's and then what happens if you drop the weight or something? It just then
yeah,
you've
good
lost
point.
some weight. It's just you're just creating a situation which you
We're
can
trying
manage
to
another
change an
way.
industry here, Steve.
I
I need solutions.
would say we're two cylinders. And look, here's the thing that I do. I behind me here, I've got little 40 cubic feet aluminum cylinders. I've got 50 cubic feet steels. I've got 12 liter. What's that? Are they 90 or something? Cubic feet
Mhm.
steels. And I've got 11 liter, 80 cubic feet aluminium. I can dive all of them in side mount. And so, if you don't need as much gas, then dive a smaller cylinder. It's so much fun to dive 40s or 50s, depending
Yeah.
on the water that you're using. So I would always say, why would you give up the opportunity to have the redundancy of side mount by trying to go one cylinder? Why not just put the other one on?
Well, I think
Cost you
I think
cost you another regulator.
right. I think that we are opening ourselves up to yet another controversy, which is you should only dive side mount when you need it. If you're only squeezing through
No,
tight caves. That's the
Absolute
only.
rubbish. Absolute rubbish.
This is yet
Do you want
another
to go
video.
there?
No,
Do you
we
want to
can't.
go there? No,
We can't. We have to end this one and move on
All
to
right,
the next one. But
Gus,
Nick,
let's do that another time though, because I was
we
even
do.
in the shower this morning thinking about that one in case it came up, and I have pretty strong opinions that will set your YouTube on fire.
Absolutely, we should talk about it. But Nick, do you have anything to add on why we shouldn't be teaching people a single side mount open water?
Not really. I mean, I can, yeah, not really. I don't know if what I would be able to add to that because I haven't had enough time, I guess. And then the
Mm,
whole, I haven't seen it actually in the wild. I've only seen pictures of people diving the single tank
yeah.
side mount, and I've heard of it, but haven't actually seen it. So I don't know the complexities that would go into it. But I felt like Steve gave a pretty solid answer.
Yeah, I don't think it's against standards, by the way. Like with the dive
No,
agencies,
it's
I
not.
don't think they
It's not.
specify that it needs to be back mounted or whatever. So it's definitely not a violation of standards. I just feel like somebody's got to try it. I don't know. We should
Yeah.
we
There
should
is
do it
video.
again.
If anyone goes to my YouTube channel, I don't want to drive anyone away from Dive Talk, but if you go
Sure.
to
No,
Side
no.
Mount Pros, way back in 20, let me think what year it would be, 2016,
Yeah.
there's video of me in Maui. So if you look up the Maui video, I'm diving single cylinder there. I have to admit, because I got pushed into a corner there, my regulator wasn't set up properly. So I didn't have any donate gas ability. It would have been buddy breathing for sure if I had to do that. But and I was with my son, so
Safety
I'm
third.
sure he was going to be fine. Yeah,
All right.
exactly. So, but there is video of me diving single cylinder
Simon
aluminum there.
Pros for sure. And Nick, do you have a channel as well? Are you posting content out
Uh,
there?
I don't have. I have a YouTube channel, but it's just all audio. One of these days, I need to
What?
step up the game and start. I know, I know. That's a talent that I do not possess yet. So I'm just audio right now. But yeah, offgassingscuba.com.
All
That's
right.
where you can find me.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for joining us in this inaugural, I guess, roundtable. There's more to talk about. And in
Mhm.
case you're curious, we, like I said, talked about this at DEMA in the past. I'm going to leave a video right here so you can check out us talking about cave diving helmets, see what people think. See you on the next one.
That's a big one.